a worn-out town, paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night. Now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show. It's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Never standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hot true stars up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. It's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get...
Welcome into Apex News. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Craig, we are leading today with a major update on the Iran war. The United States government has officially released the actual 14-point text of the peace agreement, now called the Islamabad Memorandum, ahead of Friday's signing in Switzerland. We'll also cover the president invoking the Defense Production Act to force weapons manufacturers into overdrive. And then we have to deliver a hard story, the loss of 8 Americans in a B-52 crash at Edwards Air Force Base. We'll close things out the right way, a little more fun, a little more brevity with some good news for Big Blue Nation on both the hardwood and the gridiron. So let's get right into it, Craig. Today, we found out a little bit more about the document that will basically lay out the 14-point framework of this temporary peace agreement. The only reason we call it temporary is because they're going to go back to the negotiating table afterwards. Yeah. And it has a new name. It is the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The U.S. government released the official 14-point text Wednesday after public outcry that the text hadn't been made available. And the document is set to be formally signed this Friday, June 19th in Switzerland, triggering a 60-day window to negotiate the final terms of a lasting deal. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said the final text was reached June 12th, and Vice President J.D. Vance announced June 15th that the memorandum had been digitally signed by both countries 2 days earlier, matching an agreement signed by President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Iranian Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Baghar Ghalibaf. Craig, after 100 days of war and weeks of us reporting on a deal that didn't even have a final public text really until what we heard earlier today, we now have an official name, an official date, and signatures already in place digitally ahead of Friday's in-person ceremony. Does that level of formality change how seriously you take this deal compared to where we were even a week ago?
Well, they've got to do it because there was even talk this morning about them just making the official signing, which was done a few days ago on the 12th, I think, to do it electronically also. I don't know why, but I saw that J.D. Vance is probably going to be there doing the signing. I don't know if Trump's going to be there, but doing that, it makes it official when the cameras can get around. It makes it political. It hits all the political buttons to show that both sides have agreed on something.
Yeah, I think the other thing that a lot of folks are missing when they're talking about we want to see, what's in that framework. There was talk from the Iranian side and the American media that essentially was saying, well, we don't know what's in it, and there's going to be some talk. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. Is there money in there for nation building or rebuilding, if you will? Some people, ironically, were getting very upset that the United States may be giving some money to Iran, which is hilarious, knowing the history of President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Be that as it may, it is what it is, and we'll dive in a little bit more here as well. Senior officials had to read the 14 points to reporters over the phone on Wednesday, speaking on condition of anonymity. Before the official text was finally released, CNN had earlier obtained and published a draft version. Once again, what we talked about yesterday. Right. There's a reason you can't trust the media, even if they tell you don't release it.
They are different.
Yeah, and here is a detail that should give our listeners real pause. Speaking to CNN, U.S. officials have downplayed the significance of the memo itself, calling it a political document that does not reflect critical back-channel commitments Iran has made to the U.S., specifically on the future of Tehran's nuclear program. In other words, the document we can now actually read is not necessarily the full story, and we may never hear the full story until it's well over with at that point. That's a remarkable admission from the administration's own officials that the 14-point public document is essentially a political document, and the real substance on Iran's nuclear future is happening a commitment we are not allowed to see, which I don't think we should see, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It should be any business negotiation, you don't see the inner details.
You don't necessarily want to see how the meat is processed, if you will.
How the sausage is made.
Yeah, how that sausage is made. And so my question to you, Craig, is how do you evaluate a peace deal when you're told up front that the document you're looking at isn't really the whole picture?
Well, it's called the Islamabad Memorandum Understanding. So that tells you right there that it's not a peace deal, a peace treaty, anything like that. And we probably won't know for a while because the 60 days ends on August 18th of this year. So it could be that long before we hear about anything. But it's got a broad stroke in these 14 points that we'll be going over here in a minute. And we'll be able to get into some details, some stuff that we know that we've been reporting on for a while. And it's a good start. The point one that CNN produced is it's probably about 75% of what is actually there. And I think we're going to hit that pretty quickly.
Yeah, we are. Point one, actually, to that point, point one declares an immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, which is interesting.
Yeah, you want me to read the exact text?
Yeah, let me.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Let me read through this one section, and then, yes, I want you to read the whole text, with both sides agreeing they will not launch hostile actions against each other going forward. If you want to go ahead and read that exact text of what they talking about.
Yeah, like before, the CNN version put out that it was just between Iran and the U.S., but the actual text says the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies. So that means Israel's our ally, and Hezbollah is their ally. In the current war, signed the MOU to declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. That tells me that Hezbollah can no longer launch rockets into Israel.
Right.
And then it goes to undertake from now on not to initiate any war, any military operations against each other. Again, Hezbollah can't launch into Israel. And to refrain from the threat of use of force against each other, same thing, and ensuring the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Lebanon. And that means Israel's got to pull out of the southern part of Lebanon that they currently occupy.
Good luck.
Yeah. And we know what you'll talk about that later. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions in this paragraph of the other 13 points. But that's telling me that Hezbollah can no longer attack Israel. If they do, then this whole thing is null and void, and it's back to war again.
Yeah. On the Strait of Hormuz, the agreement provides for toll-free passage for 60 days. Now, that's going to allow you to get out just about all of the tankers that are currently in there. But if you're a shipping company or even a country sending things over, I don't know that you want to enter, because there is no promise after that 60 days at this point. It does not rule out fees being imposed after those 60 days, which means that you can get ships out. The U.S. has agreed to lift its naval blockade, and the agreement mentions withdrawing U.S. forces from surrounding areas within 30 days of a final agreement. Trump claimed the strait will be permanently toll-free, but Iran says it still intends to charge fees, though notably not tolls. Might be semantics there, to ships traveling through the Gulf. Trump says permanently toll-free. Iran says they're still going to charge fees, just not tolls. That sounds like semantics now, but could become a massive sticking point the moment actual oil tankers start trying to move through the strait. Do you think the linguistic gap gets resolved, or
it's a pretzel? It's a pretzel because
Yeah, the next
it
crisis.
it also says that Iran and Oman, after that 60 day or 30 days, 60 days, they'll get together and figure out what they're going to do there, plus all the countries that touch the Strait of Hormuz. So that's a big internal agreement they're going to have to come up with together that the U.S. won't be involved in. So that's going to make after all the ships get out, all the oil tankers and the merchandise ships, whatever you want to call them,
Right.
after all they get out, then people were asking yesterday, well, they'll just start coming right back in. Well, it takes those things move at like 2 or 3 knots across the ocean, maybe 5. It takes them months to get to their destination. They can come back a lot faster because they're empty, but it's going to be a long time before that oil hits the various refineries across the world to bring down the price of oil, even though it's down, I think $75 or something like that earlier
Crazy.
today. I don't know what it is now, but it's this isn't something that's going to happen. Yes, down 74.95 right now, so that's great. But it's going to be a while, and there's still a lot of internal, like you were saying, a lot of internal agreements that got to be made between the Arab countries, between themselves
Yeah.
on the Strait of Hormuz, because it could slow down their money, their economies, if Iran decides to shut it down again
Yeah. The
and not
agreement
pull the mines.
Yeah, the agreement asserts that Iran can never develop a nuclear weapon. The U.S. and Iran have agreed to resolve the disposition of Iran's stockpiled enriched material, with the minimum methodology being, quote, downblending on site under IAEA supervision, diluting highly enriched uranium back down to a lower civilian use level rather than physically removing or destroying it. That is a big change from what we were
Correct.
hearing just a week ago. The two
Or
parties
this morning.
just this morning, right? The two parties also agreed to discuss enrichment and other nuclear matters based on a framework still being negotiated. According to the draft disclosed by Iranian media, Iran's missile program and its support for regional armed groups are explicitly excluded from the agenda entirely. And I think that's going to be something that people are going to comment on as the next few days come in. Even some left wing propagandists that we talked about before we went on were essentially saying you didn't achieve anything because you didn't force them, to stop backing Hezbollah. We'll get into that, but down blending on site rather than removal or destruction is a meaningfully softer outcome than what a lot of Americans probably assumed dismantling Iran's nuclear program would mean. And missiles and regional proxy support being excluded entirely, that's the exact infrastructure Iran had used to arm Hezbollah for years. So what does it tell you that those two things are simply off the table at this point?
Yeah, which number of that, you got that in there? What number of the 14 it is?
The down blending, I think, is 5.
Yeah, down blending I've got. They're gonna do that on site.
Yeah, on the other one, it's just simply not discussed. They don't say
Okay.
anything about
Well,
the
but you go back to one, to the
Yep.
number 1, where the U.S. Republic and their allies, that carries throughout this document, meaning that Iran can't resupply Hezbollah so they can attack Israel, or it's null and void again,
And
in my interpretation.
I guess my question is, do you trust
No.
Iran to live up to their end of
They've
that?
not honored one thing, any agreement since the early '80s, since they came into power. They've not honored any agreement. They've not stuck to any agreement. So no, and everybody knows that. And if I don't know what they might honor it through Trump, and then violate it
Immediately afterwards.
with the next president, because he might not have the willpower or spine to attack them again. Who knows?
Which is exactly the way Iran has propagated their behavior over the last 47 years. Is
Right.
if we have a weak leader in, we'll push the boundaries.
Right.
To see how
No,
things
well,
go.
like Russia attacking Ukraine.
Very much.
They didn't do that under Trump. But let me ask this question before you go on. What do you think the citizens of Iran are thinking of this? And with this 60-day window and with Trump being in for 3 more years, do you think they will rise up? Because we have got weapons. The Kurds screwed us over when we took weapons over there to arm the civilians. But some weapons are getting in now, from what I've been reading and seeing. Do you think this will be more of an impetus for Iran to rise up from the inside and take out the IRGC?
Well, it's interesting because the agreement is between the Iranian Islamic State,
Yeah.
or Islamic State of Iran, right?
Right. Yep.
And if you'll remember, one of the contentions, even when we had our friend Farzad on here, is a plurality of the people prior to 1978, 79 were secular. Secularism was they were not religious theocrats. So the fact that the agreement is with this group probably doesn't sit really well with the many people who live in Iran who genuinely want regime change. Now, we've
Yes.
talked about that here many times, whether it's right or wrong to have regime change. And I think Marco Rubio very famously recently said, yeah, I mean, that's why you do these things, because you don't want bad people in power.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Trump said today in his press conference, we took out the leaders, the first round of leaders, when they got the Ayatollah, the 80, 90-year-old guy.
Right.
Then we took out the second level of leaders when they got put in, when us and Israel took all them out. And now we're down to the third new leader. So maybe it's not specifically a regime change, but Trump said this afternoon from France that he thinks these leaders are more amenable to peace across the region.
We'll have to see how that works.
Of course, yeah.
I
That's just what he said.
Yeah, I think the people of Iran. I mean, I hope and pray that we will see a change quickly for those folks. But as long as these psychos are in power over there, nothing good's going to happen. I mean, that's just a fact.
And you probably weren't old enough to know this, or you've seen videos and you heard Javi talk about it, and we've heard PBD talk about it. In the 70s and before, Iran was a vacation destination for the planet. It was a massive economy. You can ski there. People don't know, even though it's a desert. They're surrounded by mountains mostly, and you can ski there. You can all kinds of different things you could do then that the regime now has stopped. And don't forget, Kyle, they're dealing with a 7-year drought, and Tehran, over the next couple of years, if they don't get a lot of rain, Tehran, the capital city, they'll be out of water, and that will bring its own uprising from the citizens.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned our good friend Javi. That it's the culture and the leadership don't match, and I think that's the reality of what's happening over there. I'm sure there's people who watch this show and go, well, the culture and leadership in America, no. I mean, you don't understand. Majority of the people don't want to be under the rule of a theocracy, and that's what you have over there. And the leadership fears giving up control. So when they fear giving up control, that's when they harm their citizens, and you can't have that. And that's the reality of it. The United States commits to developing a plan with at least, this is one of the sticking points, with at least $300 billion for Iran's reconstruction and economic development, with implementation mechanisms finalized within 60 days. Iran can begin exporting oil as soon as the memorandum is signed, with U.S. Treasury waivers for crude oil, petrochemical, and derivative exports issued immediately, something they have not been able to do for a very long time. The U.S. has committed to terminating sanctions under the framework of a final agreement, including UN Security Council resolutions, IAEA restrictions, and unilateral American sanctions, though officials say the U.S. would move to waive, not fully eliminate these sanctions. A separate dispute over roughly $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets remains unsolved and unresolved, and it hasn't even been discussed.
Yeah.
$300 billion for Iran's reconstruction, immediate oil export waivers, a path to lifting sanctions tied to UN resolutions in place for years. This is a massive economic lifeline for a regime that started this war by closing 1/5 of the world's oil supply routes. How do you think the average voter processes a number like $300 billion going to rebuild the country? And I want you to then counter that question with what the Vice President of the United States said, is that we're not just giving $300 billion to Iran.
We're not giving nothing to
We're not
Iran.
giving them anything. Essentially, what we're doing is if Qatar wants to come in and build something, we will help facilitate that that potential reconstruction up to $300 billion. After that point, they're on their own. But the United States is not giving pallets of cash.
That's correct. We're not like under Obama, and Trump addressed it in his press conference today from France, where we sent $1.7 billion in cold hard currency in pallets on, I guess, C-130s or something like that over to Iran. The $300 billion, and you're going to be lied to a million different ways.
Yep.
They're going to portray it, the opposite side is going to portray it as it's $300 billion in taxpayer dollars. Now, what J.D. Vance said this has been saying for this week, and what Trump reiterated today and even complimented J.D. Vance on what he said earlier is, first, it won't be $300 billion at once. It could be Qatar or Oman or UAE wanting to build a power plant so that they can make money off of that power plant, or Chick-fil-A wants to build a restaurant inside of Iran. Right. All this is done without American taxpayer dollars, but the U.S. government would cut the red tape to help them succeed in getting their projects done. So it would be private investment or the money that's held across the world, Iran's oil money across the world, maybe that 24 billion, whatever, would be released if Iran reaches certain benchmarks. If they fail to reach those benchmarks, take it like this: when you build your house, you don't give the guy the $200,000 straight up front to build your house.
Correct.
He takes monthly draws or draws whenever they're needed. This would be the same concept with Iran. It will be draws once they hit a particular goal level, whatever you want to call it. That's when they'll get that money. But the private investment from across the world into Iran, that's between them and Iran. And then we will help get that done through the international banking system, because we can close it down. Obviously, we've done it. And that will help move it forward. But it won't happen unless benchmarks are hit.
We now have an actual official named document with specific numbers, timelines, and mechanisms, real progress from where this negotiation stood. Even a week ago, when both sides were saying something was happening, other people were saying nothing was happening. But Israel rejects the idea it's bound by the Lebanon provisions, even as Iran insists that it is. The nuclear provisions rely on downblending rather than removal, with the most sensitive questions pushed into future negotiations, and U.S. officials admit that the public document doesn't necessarily capture everything. There's all these back channels and other things.
Negotiations. That's why it's called a memorandum of understanding.
Exactly. And there are back channel commitments that the American public and Congress haven't seen. So we finally have this actual text, something Congress and the public were demanding. They got it now. But the core problem we've covered for weeks is Israel's role or non-role in this agreement is still completely unresolved. And I want to touch on this real quick. You and I talked a little bit about this last night, but we have said that Israel is not bound by this. Israel was the one who initially started the activities over Iran.
Yeah.
So they're heavily involved in what's happening here. A lot of people even say that Israel talked the United States into.
And we know that's bullcrap. That's political talk again.
It is. But my question, I guess, is what are we going to – does having an official document with the name and change any of the uncertainty, especially when it comes to Israel? Is all this going to be for naught?
I go back to one again, like I talked about before, point 1, paragraph 1, whatever you want to call it. And it says the USA and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies. That not only means Israel, that means Europe, that means Australia, it means Japan. Go back to that. I keep going back to that because that's because in these kind of documents, as you know, Kyle, as an attorney, every word has a meaning.
It does.
And when it says and their allies, that to me means Israel's our ally. That means Israel is a sign, they might not physically sign on it, but but by being our ally, they agree to this.
Well, I will say this. In the law, there is a legal theory called privity of contract. Privity of contract means that you were a part of the contract, whether you negotiated, signed, that there was, negotiations, consideration back and forth. If right now you could say UAE is our
Ally.
is our ally at this point. UAE, if they get mad at Iran for something and decide to throw some missiles over there is no privity of contract with UAE to this agreement. And I think from a legal standpoint, there are people in the United States and throughout the world who are taking a step back, going, it's great lip service to say that Israel, as our ally, is going to have to abide by this. But we've heard for a week from Bibi Netanyahu that
And his number one general.
his number one general, who have basically flipped the bird to everyone who has asked and said, we're not going to be held to this. Now, in reality, are there back discussions with Marco Rubio and Vice President Vance and President Trump, obviously saying, all right, pump the brakes. Let's see if we can, get something that works here. I hope so, but there's no guarantee.
Well, there could be one. Let's say Israel decides to bomb the crap out of Iran. Iran launches a bunch of missiles and drones. All right, the Patriot batteries, they take a bunch of them down until they run out of Patriot missiles. And Trump says, well, sorry, buddy, you broke the agreement. You didn't do what we told you to do. No more Patriot missiles for you.
Well, and that's actually going to lead us into our next story. It's a good transition. Good segue.
Oh, okay.
The Iran deal update gives us a real official document to dig into for the first time. Now we're going to look at a related story that didn't get nearly enough attention this week, but it tangentially is related to exactly what you just talked about, because while diplomats were finalizing the wording, we're finalizing the peace terms, the president was simultaneously invoking a Cold War era law to force American factories to build more weapons faster. And the implications of that order reach far beyond the defense industry, and we need to get right into that. The President Trump has invoked the Defense Production Act to address constraints in weapons supplies and development for munitions production and supply chains. According to a memo made public on Tuesday, in the memorandum dated June 11th, Trump wrote directly, quote, I hereby find that conditions exist which may pose a direct threat to the national defense or its preparedness programs, end quote. The memo delegates Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use the Act's authority, citing systemic constraints in the industrial base and directing him to form voluntary agreements and plans of action with private industry. Craig, the language in that memo, conditions exist which may pose a direct threat to national defense, is serious, it's formal, it's legal language. This is the president making a specific legal finding under a specific federal statute. What's your initial reaction to the government formally declaring our weapons production capacity to be a national defense vulnerability?
Well, it's a good thing, because I remember stories before, and I looked it up again today when I saw this topic. We don't import. We import a lot of stuff for our missiles and drones and all that stuff. We don't import tank systems. We don't import B-52s, or we don't import F-32s. We make those, but the components that go into those planes, guidance systems, all that stuff, come from overseas, and a whole bunch of it from China. But on some things, like we get 18% of our parts from UK. They didn't let us fly from their bases. France, we get 15%. They didn't let us fly. We get 13% of our higher technological components from Israel. But we get a whole bunch of, let me read them off here. China controls minerals, rare earths, electronics, magnets, semiconductors, and chemicals used in our missiles, rockets, jets, all that kind of stuff. They don't make the thing, but they've got little pieces that all go into building the jet that makes it cost $150 million. We're getting too much of that from overseas, and Trump wants to bring it home on American shores. And going back to COVID, this is when we learned China dominates the pharmaceutical market in the United States, and they
Yep.
wouldn't have to declare war on us. They just quit supplying the precursors to medicines that all our people use now.
Well, and highlighting that, the work that the White House has done with Mark Cuban, an outspoken opponent of the president, but Mark
Right.
Cuban and his group, to essentially try to make more medicines and their precursors
On
in the
American soil,
United
yeah.
States. I mean, we pay too much for our medicines here. I mean, that's a given. If anything
Right.
we can do, it's to be able to do that. The other thing I want to hit on real quick, and that's important about this story, a lot of people don't know their history, but the people who do know their history will tell you that the reason we got out of the Great Depression was World War II.
Correct.
And it was the Defense Production Act and the requiring America to get to work to make these,
Right. Yeah.
these
To
things.
save rubber, save steel, save aluminum.
Right.
I mean, not save it, recycle it.
Right.
And I've always questioned, would we do that today if they come down? And I don't think we
I don't
would.
know, but this particular aspect of this Defense Production Act, solid rocket motors, igniters, and guidance systems are among the most critical and capacity-constrained subsystems needed for weapons production. The memo said that the mechanism is warranted because fragile supply chains and production bottlenecks may impair the ability of the U.S. to expand availability of munitions, missiles, and equipment required for
Mhm.
national defense. And it's not that we lack steel or raw explosives, as you said. It's these specialized pieces
Right.
that have to be used in delivering these things. But
Right. It makes them so good
right,
where they could shoot it from 800 miles away and go through a window in a building.
yeah, we simply can't make them fast enough to keep up with the demand for what we actually need. Kicking this in actually makes that happen, and it also kicks off things like more steel production because you're
Right.
going to have to use those things, even though it's not those
It's a
components.
job creator too.
Right,
Like
it's
you said,
big,
coming out of World War II
big
and
job
the
creator.
Depression. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I found one analysis that 78% of the components in some of the Department of War weapon systems come from China.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And
Well,
and the chips right now, we've got 4 big tens of billions of dollars, maybe $100 billion of chip manufacturing plants going on in Arizona, Mexico, Ohio, and another state, but they're still 2 or 3 years away from making their first chips.
they are.
So right now, a lot of our chips come from Taiwan. Again, if China wants to hurt America, all they got to do is bomb a few plants in Taiwan,
Yeah.
and we're screwed again.
The other thing that I want people to understand about this is it's not just about warheads, and it's not just about bullets, right?
Right.
There are all these other parts that you actually need, and some of our greatest technological advances happened during World War II and the buildup to World War II. Because we had to have technological advances. Some of the greatest computing advances that we had happened during World War II, the code breaking and things like that. That's where your
Mhm.
first supercomputers actually started.
Right.
So the fact that we're trying to push the American economy to make more technology is actually a very, very good thing
Yeah.
that we can be looking at as well.
Well, some of our most famous things that have been used in this war, javelins, HIMARS, and the Patriot missiles, a lot of their most of their subcomponents are imported
Yeah,
into the U.S.
can't
Now
have that.
we gave javelins to Iran to take out the Russian tanks. HIMARS has been used in Israel, and Patriot missiles, of course, are being used in Israel and Ukraine.
Yeah. There's an interesting aspect of this. The war against Iran has highlighted concerns over munition stockpiles and rates of production. But just 2 days before this memo became public, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was on CBS directly denying that there was any problem at all.
Right.
Asked about a significant weapon shortage, Hegseth said that's a manufacturer story the media wants to peddle, and ultimately our stockpiles are great, and they're only getting stronger. Earlier this year, in congressional testimony, Hegseth had separately acknowledged that replenishing certain munitions could take months to a year. Now,
Because it's not built in America.
it's not right, but I'm just going to put a pin in that right here. the defense the defense secretary or the secretary of war, whatever you want to call him, is not going to
Essentially,
go
Secretary of War.
is not going to go on to a major Sunday news cycle and say we don't have any weapons for our own defense. That is not just career suicide. That puts all of us in danger.
And we have plenty of weapons, but
We have plenty
continue
of
on.
we have plenty of weapons. We need to replenish the weapons that
Right.
we potentially have for
Right.
our own defense.
Let me give a business analogy. Let's say you keep 100 boxes of cereal on your shelf at your grocery store. That's called par. Once that's your what your inventory is. Once you get down to your par level of say 78, then it's time to order 22 more boxes of cereal. So we have used down. We gave this was the same thing when Ukraine went to war, and the Republicans used this against Biden, saying Biden's giving away hundreds of billions of dollars worth of our munitions and causing our stockpile to drop. I mean, it's true, it dropped, but we're not in danger of not being able to fight a war. Now, here's the kicker, though. We have never, and Trump wants to do this, we've never had enough stockpile of munitions to fight a war on two fronts. Say we want to fight a war in Iran, and then China decides to attack the USA. We don't have enough munitions, and we've never had enough munitions to be able to have a war on two fronts.
You're absolutely right.
So that's why they want to onshore all this military manufacturing first, to get that. But an ancillary, it creates American jobs, high-paying jobs, highly technical jobs, and it does nothing but make America better by bringing these things on shore.
Yeah.
Makes America safer, not better. I'm sorry.
Both.
True.
Reality. Hegseth had been pitching lawmakers on approximately $350 billion to replenish stockpiles depleted during the U.S.-led war with Iran. The administration separately seeking to increase total Defense Department spending to approximately $1.5 trillion.
Right.
Reconciliation legislation.
$515 billion increase.
A process that would allow Senate Republicans to approve the measure without needing Democratic votes. It's a White House moving on two fronts simultaneously, maybe another analogy, using executive authority right now to force private industry into faster production while asking Congress for a historic amount of money to pay for it. $350 billion just to refill stockpiles depleted in roughly 4 months of conflict with Iran, and pursuing $1.5 trillion in total defense spending, which would be the most spent by any country in defense spending in the history of
Say that one more time.
$1.5 trillion in total defense would be the largest.
That's 1 year.
That's 1 year.
One military budget. Yeah.
Yeah. Spending through a process specifically built to avoid needing Democratic votes. Whatever your views on the Iran war itself, those numbers tell you something about what modern warfare actually costs in material alone. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Well, it's changing. We're learning, and it's changing with the drones coming in. That they're using their military explosive drones that they fly. Those are like $20,000 to make.
Right.
We're using literally $1 million missiles to shoot down that $20,000 weapon.
Right.
Well, now we're getting into the drone technology, but again, most of our drone components come from China. I looked at that today too. Well, we have developed drones now that attack drones autonomously.
Right.
Meaning our drones will do a kinetic, not an explosion, but like say it's got a 3-pound lead thing on the front of it, that it just slams into it and takes it out. The battle of the future is not going to be $1 million or $100 million weapons. It's going to be $20,000 pieces of equipment.
And for those of you who don't believe us, do a little research on what's happening in Ukraine right now.
Right.
That war is almost exclusively being fought with drones at this point. And the troops on the ground are dying at ridiculous rates because
30,000 a month. Human beings, 30,000 a month.
Speaking of the Ukraine, there is a Ukraine implication here. Officials are prioritizing rebuilding domestic capacity, signaling tighter limits on supplies to allies such as war-torn Ukraine. If American weapons manufacturers are told To prioritize refilling U.S. stockpiles first, that almost necessarily means less surplus capacity available to continue arming Ukraine. Time for the EU to step up.
Right, and they're panicking.
Yeah, the same limited number of rocket, motor, and guidance system factories that supply American forces are often the same factories that are currently supplying Ukraine. This connects two stories that seem completely separate, but we knew that they weren't. You and I have talked about this before, Craig. The Iran war and the Russian-Ukraine war, if American factories are now being told, rebuild our own stockpiles first, what does that tell you about our ability to keep fighting for Ukraine? And I understand we don't have people on the ground there, but it's our systems that are being sent to them, besides their
now Europe is buying our military systems to give to Ukraine. We're no longer giving them directly to Ukraine like we did under Biden, but let's use a Biden era thing. When we were giving them those military weapons to fight Russia in the beginning, one of the reasons they said was it allows us to get rid of our old technology, replace it with our current new technology, and also allows us to battle test some of our most modern military systems. Yeah. But we're not testing, we're training them how to do it. And I'm telling you, man, if Ukraine's turned loose the way Russia's been decimated and with the drone technology, could Ukraine take over Russia? I mean, damn.
That war, people say that
Ukraine's winning the war now. There's no doubt about it. Ukraine's winning.
People say that war is close to ending. I don't think it is. I think Russia, again, is a desperate nation ran by a crazy person, and they are not ever going to quit.
Putin won't let nobody get near him. You know how Russia, they'll send people out to kill you by just putting a poison on your finger and touching you, and you die a month later.
Very similar to North Korea.
Yeah, right. Putin doesn't let anybody get near him, and he's afraid his own generals are going to take him out to stop the war. But Ukraine, I saw something today, but I didn't get a chance to look at it. I think I'll speculate that Ukraine's going on an offensive towards Moscow. I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but
now we're in the summer months, and they talked about their summer counteroffensive, so it's entirely possible.
Yeah, because Russia gets bogged down. Well, both of them do in the winter over there.
Yeah, not much you can do. They plan out when they'll.
Right.
That story about weapons production capacity takes on a different weight in light of what we have to tell you next, because this week the U.S. Air Force suffered one of its worst training accidents in years, and the 8 men who lost their lives now have names, families, and stories that deserve to be told. We want to handle this one with care as well. On Monday, a B-52 Stratofortress, that is the big dog.
That's the World War
bomber B-52.
The Ordnance Deliverance.
Crashed at Edwards Air Force Base in California, killing all 8 people on board. The crew was embarking on a test mission for the Air Force's radar modernization program when the plane took off around 11:20 a.m. local time. The plane crashed on the runway shortly after takeoff and burst into flames. Aerial footage showed a large burn mark and a huge plume of smoke visible for miles. Colonel James Hayes, deputy commander for the 412th Test Wing, described the crash as unsurvivable, despite immediate efforts by first responders. Craig, that word unsurvivable, coming directly from a military commander, tells you everything you need to know about how violent that immediate accident was. I think it's important we just sit with the human element here as well. Mm-hmm. This was a tragic event. I mean, we saw the Black Hawk and its training mission in DC.
Don't think about the commercial airliner, the UPS that did.
Yeah, these systems and these people are incredibly well trained. They are the highest level of training. So we'll have to wait and see what actually.
Yeah, and is this the long rumored B-52-H? I know it's testing a new radar system, but they're upgrading the plane to go for decades longer in operation because it's 60 years old now. Is that about right, Kyle?
Yeah,
something like that. And so I was reading on a couple of days ago after the crash that they wouldn't identify the type of B-52 it was, but it was rumored because it's test flight, it's in test operations, that it was the long rumored B-52H, which is a massive upgrade on the B-52.
Yeah. Edwards Air Force Base released the names of all 8 people killed Wednesday. 24 hours after next of kin were notified. Per standard military practice, the deceased weapons system officer, Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Estrella, 40, and Major Alexander Davis, 34, 419th Test Squadron pilots, Major Robert D., 40, Major Brad Hovey, 35, Jeremy Smith, 32, he was a flight test engineer, Christopher Richard, 41, a contractor and flight test engineer, retired Lieutenant Colonel Miles Middleton, 50, he was a Boeing pilot, and Colonel Gregory Watson, 53, a weapons officer for Boeing and Air Force reservist. This was a combined test force, active duty airmen, contractors, and government civilians, all working side by side. What does it tell you about these integrated defense testing programs and what they were probably doing here based upon what you just said to us about this? These new
No idea, because there's very little information about the B-52H, but Boeing is, our biggest military contractor, and they had a couple guys, from what you read, I didn't know that they had Boeing test pilots on there too.
Yep.
So they're working with the military on this upgrade to the B-52, and these guys are test pilots. They're heroes across the board.
100%.
And we've had test pilots since John Glenn, remember, back in the 60s before
Chuck
the Apollo. Yeah, Chuck Yeager. All these, we got test pilots. They're in the air right now today,
100%.
testing out military equipment that we might not see for 10 years. There's a B-40. It's the jets of the 10 years from now that we have no clue what they are.
Yeah,
they're being test flown now with technology we don't know exists. And that's what these guys do.
There is technology ready to go right now that no one knows about.
Yeah.
That they
Whoever knew a F-35 would be like a Great Britain Harrier.
Right.
It could take off and land just straight up and down like a helicopter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at Venezuela. What happened in Venezuela.
Right.
We're still hearing stories out of Venezuela from the technology that came out in that overnight raid that, people are saying that they were, bleeding from all of their orifices.
The sound. Yeah.
Sound. I mean, that's wild. The B-52 still in service, among the oldest planes in the Air Force fleet, with airframes flying today built in the early 1960s. The military is paying nearly $50 billion to upgrade these planes to keep flying until the 2050s. These planes will potentially reach a 100-year service life.
Yeah, the B-52 Straddle Fortress.
Yeah, the big dogs. Doug Berkey of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies explained, when you are dealing with aircraft of this age and when you are pressing for the highest performance type scenarios, we're asking folks to take a lot of risks, and clearly 8 people paid with their lives. They are heroes. They knew the risk. They know what goes into this. Test pilots are some of the bravest heroes that we have, because they are testing things, pushing the limits of technology and science at this point. Many people, in fact, you mentioned it earlier, but nearly every NASA astronaut in the original was a test pilot.
Yes.
So that back in the 50s and 60s. So the U.S. Air Force Accident Investigation Board will examine the incident, a process that can take up to 6 months to reach initial conclusions. The airfield will remain closed until at least Thursday, with flight test operations expected to resume early next week. They get right back at it. The test wing has stood up an emergency family assistance center providing mental health services, child care assistance, legal counsel, and chaplain support. Air Force Global Strike Command posted to its personnel this week, please take the time to check in on your wingman. So,
yeah. And what they'll do, again, watching YouTube videos, they'll take that B-52, every piece of it that is on the ground, every piece, no matter the condition, and they'll rebuild that B-52 inside a giant hangar. I mean, not where they'll build it to where it can fly again, but they'll put all the pieces together to where they can analyze and see what caused it to crash so soon at the end of the runway. Right now they have no clue at all.
And as we find out, we'll obviously let you guys know as well.
Big tragedy.
Total. We are going to shift gears now. I think it's time to do that. And honestly, after this last story, let's move to something a lot more fun. You ready?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, let's go.
Cheers, UK.
Cheers, UK. Boy, do we have some news. I think we talked about this just 2 nights ago.
Right, it's a couple of days ago. That's correct.
A couple days ago, and I made a pretty bold prediction. It looks like one part of that prediction is coming true, but we'll see about the other part as well. We're actually awaiting news right now. Any news that might be coming through on this, we will obviously let you know. But the question everyone is asking in Big Blue Nation, is Mark Pope on the verge of yet another massive recruiting win? KSR's Jack Pilgrim broke the news that Kentucky last night, you and I were texting late, was among the front runners to land Nikola Kusturica, a 6'8" Serbian wing with legitimate NBA lottery pick
potential. How old is he, Kyle?
He's 17. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm about to blow your mind with a stat here in a second. By Tuesday night, word spread that UK might actually be the leader. Pilgrim wrote that Pope's Wildcats may have taken over as the favorite. And Travis Branham, who, as you can see on the screen right now, has a 94.51% all-time picks prediction when it comes to this. He came out, gave his crystal ball. He's with 24/7 Sports, logged an official prediction in favor of Kusturica committing to Kentucky. Dark Pope, as people are calling him, bearded Mark Pope, might be about to land his 15th player for the upcoming 2026-27 season. An industry insider going from front runner to favorite to an actual logged prediction is wild, even in this day and age.
Yeah.
In about 72 hours, that's a recruitment heating up in real time. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why this may be taking a little bit longer and why Kentucky might actually might have some laws that cause things to be a little bit issue. We'll talk about that in a second. But what is your gut reaction to Kentucky possibly being the favorite for a legitimate NBA lottery pick out of Europe?
I think we both saw it right off, at the same time, because when you texted me, I was looking for 24/7 Sports because I think they're just extremely reliable on their stuff. And then you showed the crystal ball prediction. I said, oh, my goodness, this is getting serious.
Yeah,
they do have a very good record. You've got the stat up there. I didn't know it was that high, 94.51%. But this getting this guy could change the whole dynamics of the team. But as you noted yesterday, and we discussed, he's only 17. He's got to be 19 to get into the NBA. So we would have him for 2 years.
So I'm gonna blow your mind. Okay. Kusturica just turned 17 on April 30th. Okay. That means that he was born on April 30th of 2009.
Yeah.
And just for all of you Big Blue fans out there, that was 15 days after DeMarcus Cousins committed to the University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
He was born in 2009, and he was born after Boogie Cousins committed to Kentucky. Let that just sink in.
Under Calipari, yeah, that's
Calipari. That's how young this kid is.
What did I text you? I said, "Well, subtract 50 years from that, and there's my birth year." So, this is crazy.
Kusturica turned 17 on the 30th of April, making him eligible for the NBA draft, making him not eligible until 2028, giving him 2 years of college eligibility starting in 26-27. He currently suits up for FC Barcelona in Spain's Liga ACB, considered the top domestic professional league outside the NBA. Kusturica is the youngest player in FC Barcelona's entire history to score a basket in a Liga game, doing it at 16 years old. He was playing for the professional league at 16 years old.
The number one professional European league.
Yeah, he was born in Novi Sad, Serbia. He signed with Barcelona's youth academy in 2023. FC Barcelona's basketball program is one of the most storied professional clubs in European history, with a pipeline that's produced multiple NBA talent for many years. The
And
young
NBA champions.
and NBA champions. That alone tells you the kind of talent that he has. Let me dig a little bit deeper into this story, just so you can kind of understand, though. Because he's 17, when he comes to Kentucky, his parents will have to sign every document, right? Because he's 17, including his NIL document. When he turns 18 in Kentucky, he has 30 days to essentially re-sign with Kentucky, essentially agreeing to the agreement that he had before.
Oh, okay.
So in a year, his agent and his parents are going to have a significant amount of leverage, because regardless of whatever this agreement is that we reach right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to continue with that agreement, because he's a minor, right?
Yeah.
So
I didn't think about that, but yeah.
he can't even agree to it in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, that means a couple of things. It means that the University of Kentucky is going to have to recruit his family just as much as they are recruiting him, because they are going to be the adults in the room. An aspect of this that has to be taken into consideration is Milan Momcilovic, who is from Wisconsin, right? He is an American citizen born in the United States. His parents, however, are Serbian.
Correct.
And so there are a number of people who have said that the Momcilovic effect, and potentially having his family, including you, Craig, and having his family reaching out to the family of Kusturica, could be the big factor in why this is happening so fast. Your thoughts?
I think that it is that's what's happening. I think his parents are communicating. Momcilovic's parents are communicating with Kusturica's. Is that right?
Yes.
Kusturica's parents, and giving them what Momcilovic went through, his whole U.S. experience, playing college basketball, and then being recruited by UK. And these highlights of a 16-year-old kid are just amazing. And he was the MVP of the under-16 FIBA European tournament. He averaged, I think you're going to share those numbers, so I won't say them, because they're pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
But he as a under 18, he played some seriously good basketball.
Yeah. He starred in the 2025 FIBA. They just finished the 2026 FIBA, and he didn't play in the championship, but he starred in the 2025 FIBA U16 Eurobasket, leading Serbia to a 99-86 championship win over Lithuania, two great countries.
Another good team, yeah.
He averaged 20 points, 7.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 2.1 steals, and 1.6 blocks in just 25.6 minutes per outing.
Right.
Tournament MVP. He also helped Barcelona's youth team win the Adidas Next Gen Finals Championship, posting 20 points and 10 rebounds in the title game while showing off his handles, his passing, his feel, his defensive plays. He's not flashy. I mean, he's just a player. He's got great handles. Craig, I was watching last night some highlights of this kid when he was 8 years old, doing dribbling drills with two basketballs and then sinking threes with both of them. He's only a 30% three-point shooter, which means he's not, but this kid scores. He has an knack for the basket.
His handles, and I'm going to this is going way back in the college basketball and NBA world. I'm wondering if he's watching Pete Maravich's videos with, like you said, the two-handed dribbling and stuff.
Yep.
But what's the most impressive, the 20 points, that's fine and dandy. But averages 7 rebounds, getting 10 rebounds in a game as a guard.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's first round pick NBA. You're making $15 million your first year in NBA numbers.
Well, and a 6'8", 17-year-old who is probably not done growing, who can play essentially any position
right
short of a center position, gives you a lot more flexibility playing him at a 4 or a 3 or even a 2 if you needed him to.
Watch him on his layups. He reminds you of Rex Chapman on his layup. The way he sticks his arm out and flicks it right at the end, reminds you of that. And then his ball handling skills remind me of Pete Maravich going way back. So,
He,
I mean,
that pass right there. I mean, that is,
Rex had a good NBA career.
yeah.
And he's got a lot of respect in the NBA community. I see videos on him where they're talking about Rex Chapman and how he was with Phoenix and everything. So it just
Rex Chapman shut Michael Jordan down.
And fact, Michael Jordan says that.
Michael Jordan says the toughest.
He praises Rex Chapman for that. And then you've seen all the late game heroics where Chapman will hit them off balance 3-pointers, and I mean it was just fun to watch him play. Of course, because we didn't have many UK players in the NBA then, but this kid, I mean, would he come here and start?
I mean, he could, at least for a few games, you know, but he doesn't have to. That's the great thing.
How much he weigh? What's he weighing in at?
180 pounds, I think.
Okay, so he wouldn't be going. He wouldn't be banging with SEC players. He'd get minutes.
No,
he wouldn't be starting, but he'd be getting minutes.
Yeah. Schools showing real interest were Gonzaga, Kentucky, UCLA, Arizona, Duke, Louisville, North Carolina. It sounds like money again was the big factor here. I saw a really funny post earlier today that basically said, can you imagine if UK once again has the highest payroll in NIL?
Yeah, it upset me last year. I don't care now.
Just a month ago, they were like, Kentucky doesn't have any players and they're not paying anybody,
right.
and blah, blah, blah. And now,
yesterday you said Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Tell us again.
Yeah.
What you said about Gonzaga and who they signed.
So
why UK jumped to the top.
So Gonzaga recently added over last weekend a 6'6" French guard named Juman Akanga, and that a lot of analysts essentially believe that pulled the Bulldogs squarely out of the race entirely. Meanwhile, Kentucky's pitch is red hot after bringing in Milan Momcilovic through the transfer portal and landing 5-star recruit Ryan Hampton, who will be playing the next year.
Right, yeah.
A program that flipped its recruiting narrative completely in the span of 1 week. Remember, it was just 2 weeks ago that all this started happening. Mark Pope's recruiting heater just keeps going. You know, Momcilovic, Hampton, now potentially the top prospect in the entire 2027 class internationally. Does Gonzaga's roster move actually clear a path for Kentucky here, or do you think Mark Few and the Zags stay in the fight a little bit longer?
I think it clears the path because we're sure, because we didn't sign Momcilovic. You know, they said $8.5 million, $8 million, $7.5 million. I've seen others go as $5 million.
Yeah.
So if we did and we were holding back so much money, we've got money to put in. We've got a roster spot available. And we just signed Momcilovic. We just signed Ryan Hampton, which is 2 massive feathers in Pope's cap, the bearded one's cap. Has he still got his beard?
Oh, yeah, Dark Pope.
Dark Pope. Okay, so all those things. And then if we get this guy, if somehow we land this guy as our 15th player, man, watch the floodgates open next year on recruits.
It sounds like it's what I have heard is that it sounds like this is a $5+ million offer that has been made for 2 years, $5 million each, $5 million plus each,
which is way more than he's making in Europe.
Oh, I mean, significantly more. Plus, you're in American college. He also is considering going to a prep academy that is being coached by the same guy who coached LaMelo Ball and those guys, but choosing the European Professional League or a Kentucky college or a high school doesn't even make sense. I mean,
right,
from an NIL perspective.
Yeah, because he won't get the teaching that he needs to advance to the college level for 1 year before he goes pro.
Right.
They would just basically be just a stopover, and he'd do whatever the heck he wanted to do on the team.
Yeah.
But
so
he spends 2 years with Pope and the analytics and the coaches that we've got.
You're bringing in Ryan and
potentially 2 NBA coaches, and Pope being an NBA player, and Pope also being on, I think, and many people think, the greatest college basketball team of all time, the 1996 UK Wildcats, that won every game by close to 22-point average, I think. Slaughtered everybody. greatest year ever in UK basketball. He'll see. I'm sure he's being shown those videos, or he's looking those videos up, or his circle of people are looking them up and saying, "Man, look how this guy played in 1996. Look at his analytics today."
Let me tell you this: this kid plays defense.
Well, yeah, if he's getting 10 rebounds a game, he's definitely going to play defense.
And he's averaging over 2 steals a game and averaging 1.6.
Which is big. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That means you're getting a lot more than that in some games, right?
Yeah, right.
So a lot of people have asked us. A lot of people have reached out to us. John Boy, who's not on here yet, but I'm sure will comment later because he watches our shows a little later.
Mhm.
What's the next steps? Well, Costa Rica represents Serbia at the FIBA U17 World Cup, running June 27th through July 5th in Istanbul, Turkey.
We'll be watching that.
We will, but a college decision could and very likely will come before that tournament even starts. Barcelona is obviously going to try to keep him, but the idea of playing in the United States and the actual NIL money you're going to get that comes with it is going to be too much of a reach for a 17-year-old and his family to probably pass up.
Yeah, because it's they're not rich over there.
No, they aren't.
And let me ask you this: if he does sign with Kentucky or any other U.S. college, do you think they would let him participate in the FIBA 17-year-old tournament for fear of injury? Would that be in the contract?
That's a good question. He probably has a contractual obligation at this point, even though it's a national country.
Because you see NBA players playing for their home country.
Right. The only other benefit of him playing is it keeps him in shape. He's going to be playing against great competition, whereas you come here and just be in pickup games, right?
Right, for right now, yeah.
So, for right now.
But he'll be getting used to the American system too.
Yeah, 100%. But if he lands at Kentucky, analysts believe he's going to be an immediate impact player, immediately, not just a sit and develop prospect.
That's why I asked if he would start or not.
Right. We're going to have a 6'8" wing who's already played EuroLeague level basketball, already has a Liga ACB experience, already won an MVP at an international level, and Kentucky might be the favorite to land him before he even steps on the floor at the U17.
Well, and let's run this scenario. You got Wilkins or Diallo at the point. You got Cam Williams at the shooting guard. Then you got how you say it, Momcilovic on one wing and him on the other. And then our 2 7-footers underneath. And then you got Frank Kepnang and Reese Potter and all those guys that would be coming off the bench to spell these guys. Oh my goodness. It's even better than we have talked about before. It'd be crazy.
Listen, people thought that you and I were excited and positive about this team prior to Momcilovic even coming.
When others weren't.
Anything about the hype if we land this dude. If we land this dude, get ready because we're not a top 20 team. We are a contender, right?
Yeah, we're already top 15, and the way too early NCAA tournament, we had the biggest jump this week from all the 68 teams. We went from an 8 seed to a 5 seed. And said we could.
So low. That's so low.
Yeah, they got Louisville as a 2 seed. Duke is a 1, of course, but if we sign him, I've been saying with Momcilovic we're top 7.
Yeah,
we sign this guy, we're top 5 in the first real poll, and it might be blowout city with our 7 cupcake games.
Oh, don't get me started on Dickie V.
Yeah, I sent you that, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
And then that's what I said, do UNC and Duke last year.
Right, yeah. And
they all play cupcakes.
So Kansas can have Ryan Stokes. I'll take Momcilovic, Ryan Hampton, and however you say his name, this kid.
Costa Rica.
All day long. All day long over Tyran Stokes.
The pressure will be on Pope this year. He's going to have to do something. I had somebody text me earlier today and essentially said, now he's got the players, no excuses now. You're going to have
who's making excuses though.
Just saying, the last 2 years, everybody said, well, we had injuries or we didn't necessarily have all the right players. Not going to have that excuse anymore. Even if you do have a major injury to somebody, you've got multiple guys at different positions.
Yeah, we've got backups at every spot.
If you really needed them to.
Right, yeah, you've got backups at every spot. Now we will have 3 point guards, 3 shooting guards, multiple forwards on both wings, and 3 centers.
Yeah.
And I guess you would play Frank the Tank in a center spot or a forward.
Power forward.
Yeah, and
again, I don't know how you're going to
so many
out-rebound.
options.
I don't
Yeah,
know how you're going to out-rebound this team.
nope, me neither.
You're not going to out-rebound them on the defensive side. And if we're even with you on the offensive side, forget it, because we're going to score more points than you then. It's
Right,
just-
because Pope likes to score fast break points off of rebounds.
this team
And this team is fast.
this team legitimately could average well over 90 points a game.
I don't think there's any doubt we'll average over 90. And before January 1, we might be averaging upper 90s.
I agree with that. I agree.
So every day brings more excitement to this team. And you've noticed online that the attitude has changed towards Pope. Attitude changed toward the team. The whiners and moaners, in which we were never whiners or moaners. We said, wait and let's see what happens. They've jumped aboard the big blue train and the bandwagon and all that stuff. So now when you see people say negative stuff, they get hammered on these Facebook groups and Twitter groups when they start bashing Pope.
It's wild.
It's fun. We aren't on an island by ourselves anymore.
No, and the other part of that prediction was Jamal Crawford coming, and I think, and as I said, I think Costa Rica is coming to Kentucky. I believe Jamal Crawford's coming to Kentucky. I think you're going to hear news about both of those at the same time.
Yeah, Crawford could come for a couple years, get his feet wet, and then go head coach.
Absolutely.
Somewhere, just get in. That's what he wants, experience coaching. And he'd probably be the number 3 coach. But having 2 NBA players that one was an all-star and NBA champion, the other one scored 20,000 NBA points.
Yeah.
And Pope, and remember, people forget, Pope played in the NBA too for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he played on the best college basketball team in America ever.
This could be one of the most experienced former NBA coaching staffs in the country. I haven't looked that deeply, but it could absolutely be that with Mo Williams and Jamal Crawford and Pope. But now all of a sudden people have to start going, may have been wrong about the recruiting ability of this. And how hard were we trying on Tyron Stokes? I don't know. Did Tyron Stokes say did he favor? I think it's entirely possible.
Oh, yeah. Well, remember what I said early on after we saw the high school videos and read about him. One coach didn't start him a game, so he quit the entire team. I think this guy's going to be a nightmare. In Kansas still ain't. They're up there, but we've got more than enough players to offset Tyron Stokes at Kansas. And I think just by the players themselves that he will be a focus of the whole team, and they'll try to shut him down just to say, look, buddy, you should have come to Kentucky.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly
That's just
agree with that.
competitiveness of sports.
And right now, I don't care what any of the polls or preseason or too early predictions. I would take this roster, even without Costa Rica, but especially with Costa Rica, I'd take that roster over Kansas every day of the week and twice.
Without Costa Rica, I would take him over it. And if we sign him, we are top 4. We'll be a minimum a 2 seed. We'll bump somebody out of a 2 seed for the tournament, and we'll be top 5 in the weekly polls, AP polls and stuff.
Yeah, it is something to be excited about. I will say, if I could grow a beard out and we land this kid, I think we should. Entire Big Blue Nation should wear beards. We should all embrace the dark Pope and go from there. But it's something. To behold the change in the dynamics of this team just in the last month, it's kind of crazy.
2C TV, we'll have to watch this after. It says IRGC block Iran deal. Pahlavi, the son.
Yeah.
I guess meets 2CTV. I guess he's going to be interviewed by him today. And that's the number one guy in Europe with all the Iranian information because his dad is still in Iran. So that's some breaking news too. I'm going to check that out as soon as we get off.
My take on this is that we're not slowing down. Momcilovic, Hampton, now potentially top international player.
Yeah, and this is ammo to get the recruits for next year. I mean, if we land him, we might open up a pipeline to Europe.
Yeah, we really could. And we had some people comment, yesterday that, the Europeans haven't caught up with the Americans. That may be true because that's only because we have more of them. If you're getting the top European players, then you're going to do quite well for
European and Canadian. So
Jamal Murray.
Jamal's from there, and so is
Jamal McGlory.
No, I'm talking about in NBA now. There are, I think, the top 6 players in the NBA. 5 of them are from non-American countries.
Jalen Brunson's American.
Well, he's not one of the top players neither.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, he won the MVP, but I'll have that list tomorrow.
All right.
The best players. If you want to talk a little bit
of
the NBA best players and where they're from and why, if Pope opens up, it might be a good thing to talk. Pope opens up that European pipeline, man.
Oh, I totally agree. Something to look forward to.
Yeah,
that is a great
good discussion.
That is a great story to have us excited about Kentucky's basketball future. Let's stay in the world of Kentucky athletics and shift over to football because Will Stein is just killing it. I mean, as much as we're talking about, what Dark Pope is doing up there, Will Stein and his staff are putting together one of the most impressive first-year recruiting classes ever in Kentucky football.
In Kentucky history.
Yeah, and this weekend, he's got more coming. So let's get right into that. Kentucky is up to 24 commits in the 2027 recruiting class. Not just this year coming up. The 2027 class has 24 commits. Multiple agencies have ranked them in the top 25 overall. Imagine Kentucky having a top 25 recruiting class. Number 8 in the SEC right now, if you're looking at Rivals industry class rankings, but they're not done. And I think those numbers are a little skewed right now. The Wildcats have 7 4-star recruits and 10 top 500 prospects. Kentucky's average star rating of 88.18 with Rivals would have finished number 19 overall in last year's 2026 cycle, meaning this isn't just volume, it's legitimately high-end talent for a first-year coach. This Will Stein era of coming in is impressive, but what's more impressive is who he's getting. During Mark Stoops' run, he and Vince Marrow, the big dog, built their reputation keeping the best in-state players at home and playing at Kentucky, a commitment that had shifted in recent years to out-of-state or even to Louisville. Will Stein appears to be swinging that pendulum back. Here's an example. Malachi Brown, a 4-star defensive lineman from Corbin, Kentucky, visited campus June 5th and committed 2 days later to Kentucky, turning down offers from Alabama, the national champion, Indiana,
Ohio State too, right?
Ohio State, and Tennessee.
I didn't know Tennessee.
Yeah. And Corbin, a lot of those folks cheer for Tennessee, believe it or not. Brown ranks as the 4th best player in the entire state of Kentucky. Stein's staff arrived in Lexington with a glaring hole at the offensive line. They patched,
which we talked about,
with a transfer portal haul that ranked them number 10 nationally. But the long-term fix requires high school recruiting. A headline target is Caden Moss, the number 41 overall player in Rivals industry ranking, a 6'4", 330-pound interior offensive lineman from Jackson, Mississippi. During his visit, Moss connected with current Kentucky lineman Lance Hurd from Tennessee and offensive line coach Leftwich, saying afterward, they told me I can come in and be part of what they're building and do something different at Kentucky. Craig, pulling a top 10 interior offensive lineman out of Mississippi away from Ole Miss, Ohio State, and Oregon will be a massive win in the trenches. Current players like Lance Hurd doing some of the selling instead of his former, selling on his former school, tells you that this locker room culture is buying in. That they're not just here for a paycheck. How much does that kind of player-to-player recruiting matter compared to just a coach's pitch.
Well, we just talked about it in basketball.
Absolutely.
Here, they've got something to build on because of Stein's reputation at Oregon as the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator, right? When the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, yeah. And so we have talked before about it doesn't matter how good a quarterback you are. If you don't have an offensive line giving you at least 2 seconds to get the throw off, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. He could be Bart Starr or he could be another Peyton Manning. If he can't get his ball, and Peyton Manning had a quick release, if he doesn't have an offensive line that can protect him for at least a couple of seconds, it doesn't matter what you got. So I'm glad that Stein focused on we've got a pretty good and we got a big offensive line.
Tim Couch at Cleveland is a good example of that. If you don't have an offensive line, you're going to have your butt on the back.
Right. Didn't he lead didn't Cleveland lead quarterback sacks?
All time in the season.
Okay, all time. But and you know, you got a 6'5" quarterback, number 1 in the country, number 1 pick, number 1 offense in the country, and Cleveland couldn't stop him from getting sacked.
Not at all.
It was not his fault that he didn't make it.
No, not at all.
It was the
getting drafted by
manager. It was a general manager not getting people there to protect him.
Kentucky is still seeking another middle linebacker. Sean Fox, a top 300 outside linebacker from Indianapolis, recently visited Clemson and left without committing, which is huge, keeping Kentucky firmly in the race after the Wildcats moved up his visit to showcase Lexington at his finest. Georgia linebacker Drew Williams, whose finalists include Oregon, Miami, and Florida, will visit Lexington a week after checking out Oregon's facility. Kentucky is also pursuing Antonio Berry, a top 100 prospect and top 10 tackle from Mississippi, who has already visited Florida and Colorado, with trips to Ole Miss and Alabama still planned, but he has not committed after going to Florida and Colorado.
You get a player to go to those teams. Colorado's Deion Sanders.
Right.
You get a player that go visit Florida. He goes visits high-powered Oregon, and he still hadn't decided, and he's got Kentucky in there. Yeah. When was the last time you heard us compete against Alabama, Florida, and Ohio State?
You know, I think back to when, you know, Wandale and Ryan Timmons and those guys, in-state guys, and you
heard about Ryan Timmons, right?
Ryan Timmons is now an assistant principal at Franklin County High School.
Yeah, so we'll have to have him on. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, that's good. That's great for. I'd say that they'll probably utilize some of his knowledge on the football field if I
Pirate Redbeard would holler at him and say, "Hey,
Pirate Redbeard has anything to do with it." Yeah. And you know, then obviously you have Joey Thacker up there, who's one of the greatest sports minds ever. We need to have Joey on the show, by the way. Yeah. Joey, if you're watching, I'll call you. We'll figure something out. Stein and his staff have recruited at an elite level since arriving, immediately establishing Kentucky as a destination program in the trenches at linebacker and increasingly back home in the state. Being in the top 10 nationally at this point in the early summer is a pretty good start, but the Wildcats have to stay aggressive through the rest of the cycle. Early on field success once the 2026 season kicks off will be pivotal. That's that second game of the season against Alabama.
Right.
Everything for recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, drawing Alabama as our second game, that sucks. I wish it was the fifth game. Yeah.
This is not Alabama when Nick Saban was down there. Let's be honest.
I know, but it's still Alabama.
It is still Alabama.
Like
we have that attitude, Craig.
Yeah, we beat Florida. We beat Florida several times now.
Yeah.
And they said, well, they're not the Florida vote. I don't care. They're still Florida. We beat, what was it, Auburn?
Yeah.
They're not the Auburn of vote. I don't care. They're still Auburn.
That's right.
Tennessee, if we beat Tennessee, they might not be the same Tennessee, but they're still Tennessee. You know, they're still national contenders regardless. They're going to go to a big bowl game regardless because of their fans, and they're going to be good. It's just the SEC is so darn strong. If you pulled these teams, if you pulled the top half of the league out of the SEC and put them in 7 different leagues, they probably win that league every year.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
we kill ourselves in football.
Well, now we're going to 9 conference games.
Right.
I mean,
it's even worse. It's going to be even harder. Yeah.
Who are you going to pull? You're going to oh, we'll pull Mississippi State. Well, Mississippi State, has
I mean,
had some good
even
seasons.
Vandy is not bad.
No, but Vandy next year is not. They don't have Diego.
Right, yeah.
We'll have to see what happens there. My
That,
take is Will Stein is doing exactly what every successful coach who's rebuilt a program does. You have to win in the trenches. You have to win
Yep.
at home, and making Kentucky a real player for talent. Something else that Will Stein has done sneakily, and a bunch of people are talking about it. My guys are all talking about it right now. If you see Will Stein in Kentucky gear, his Nike pullover and everything else, he has almost exclusively brought back the Power K. Now,
I hope so. God, I hate that
Yeah.
H.
that UK that looks like Houston and looks like
It looks like University of Houston.
it looks like all these other programs, and then you have the silly cat that we utilize.
Yeah,
over
that
head
just
and all
one
that
blue thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking all of his gear, Nike gear, has the Power K on it. And my buddy Kip, who sometimes watches the show, he said to me last night, "Can you imagine as they run out onto the field to play Alabama and they're wearing Power K on their helmet? That place would be bananas. It would be
That's what the
berserk.
fans want. Nike came up with that design, I'm guessing,
Oh yeah,
or some first grader did, one of the two,
yeah,
and throws that thing out there. It is immediately hated by the fan base because it looks like a damn H.
yeah.
And not, do you got a screen? You trying to pull a screen image of it?
I was actually going to pull the Power K.
Yeah, okay.
Stuff.
But it just does not. And yeah, I hope he changed. I hope we go back to the old style. I hope we go back to the old Wildcat, not this screaming thing they got on there that's nothing. That took somebody 3 minutes to design.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't use it on none of my stuff. It's not on none of my screensavers or anything I use.
I think that's the other thing about Will Stein that a lot of people they're not missing it. He's doing it right. He is bringing back little things that really get people excited about the program, including the Power K, which is subtle. It's very subtle, but for fans, long-suffering fans back to the 80s and 90s, to see that Power K and what that would mean. In fact, there used to be, even best defensive player would have a black watch, which would mean that he'd have the black style around it like that. It was a tradition, and then they took it away. And listen, I understand you got to adjust with the times, the U and the K and all that stuff. But now that it looks like Houston, and it looks like other teams that have done
it's remarkably like Houston.
Very much so. And we need to stand out, and this would definitely stand out. So Will Stein, if you're listening, or anybody else is listening, if you care what a couple of old guys think, bring it back at least for a game. Bring it back for the Alabama game, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all for it. I'll be for it 100%.
Yeah. If you have enjoyed the show, whether you're a Big Blue fan or you were here for the news, make sure you like and subscribe and share and click that little bell icon so that you will be notified every single time we're about to go live. We covered a whole lot today, Craig. Anything you want to touch on before we get out of here? No,
it was a deep dive.
It was
into the Iran agreement or the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
And that is, and once again, that's a memorandum of understanding. That is not a treaty, not even close to a treaty. And the $300 billion will not come from the taxpayers.
It will not.
It'll come from private industry, or if Arab countries want to invest in Iran, that'll be their money, but it's not coming from us. So that's two things to remember going away.
Yeah, we will. I'm joined every single day by my good friend Craig, and every weekday at 5 p.m. And obviously, if any news breaks, we jump in as well. And if anything happens, if Costa Rica comes, we're obviously going to be ready to go live and all of that as well. That's going to do it for today's show. For Apex News Above the Noise, my good friend Craig, thanks again. We talked about a lot, even some heavy stuff, but then we talked about some fun stuff. With UK as well. To everyone listening or watching, we can't thank you guys enough for making us one of the fastest growing YouTube podcasts. And we'd love for you to become a regular listener or watcher of our show. It means a lot to us. So, hey, Jake, thanks to you, buddy. For any of you who want to catch us again, we'll be here tomorrow, 5 p.m. to talk about all the news, politics, and obviously
little NBA. I'll dig up that stuff.
A little bit of NBA, and we will go from there. So everybody else, until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, stay above the noise. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.